check. 1, 2. Yes. Are you enjoying yourself? I know you are, you little munchkin. Yeah, ready?
Yeah, any kind of
Yeah.
basic information.
Hello there. Tom Cheshire is my name. Sitting here in Atlanta, Georgia, via Queens, New York. How you doing tonight? I lived in the 14th Street warehouses on 14th Street and Howell Mill Road. And Brian lived across the street with Chuck Petrakopoulos in a tiny garage behind the Northside Tavern, the Blues Bar. And the guy who owned where I lived, his name was Bill Smith. He owned the warehouse that I lived in. I don't think he wanted us living there anymore. Either that or he was selling it, but for some reason he said, you guys should move to the West End. I have some warehouses there that you could live in. And he had this, each warehouse was about, I think, 6,000 square feet. And he's like, it's this much money. Basically, you could build rooms, you could do whatever you want. You could make a playground there. And it would be, ridiculously cheap. I think it came out to, if 7 people or 8 people were living there, came out to like $80 a month. I guess you'd call it the A-team, the first people that moved in there. It was myself, Paul Tillman, William Floof Montgomery, and Brian Kinchlow, who were the first guys to move in C11 warehouse in the West End warehouses. And I believe that was end of 96, early 97. When we first moved in, C11, it actually had a front room that was almost nice. It had like tiles, and that was a small little area. I remember we put a pool table in there. There was a side room, and there was a kitchen. There was not a bathroom. There was a room that eventually became a bathroom, but there was not a bathroom. We eventually put one in. And then and that literally had something like this, ceilings that might have been even lower than this, like 8-foot ceilings. But then once you walked out that area, then you had about 4,000 or 5,000 square feet of just a big, empty, whatever you want to call it, garage, warehouse with like 30-foot ceilings. And that's the area where, rooms were built, practice spaces were built, studios were built. And on the back end, it was completely empty. And on the left side is where we put a skate ramp. And on the right side, we built a stage for bands to play where we had shows and parties and festivals. When you walked outside into that area where it was, there was a staircase up to on top of basically that front room. The ceiling wasn't very high. And there were some rooms upstairs. And I got one of those rooms. We joked around and called the whole thing, a shanty. It was like a shanty town. Every room that was either put together before we got there, like upstairs, or the ones that were built later. Yeah, there were some 2x4s, but I also remember there was a bunch of like cardboard and very thin, masonite, very thin sheetrock, curtains, cloth, tinfoil. It was like the Wild West, because you got to remember too, the location in town was in the West End. After like 6 o'clock, it got dark. I mean, you basically there's that lighthouse, and there's a freight train coming by. There's a MARTA train going by in the air, but it was desolate, so you really could do whatever you wanted, and we did exactly that. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful time. I mean, I look back on all of it, or most of it, like 90% of it, with just smiles. I didn't graduate college. For me, it was like it was like a mix of like going away to camp. That was my college. That was my art school. Anything we wanted to do, because we had the room, because we had this big space, and also no one to tell you can't do it. And like I said, you could make as much noise as you wanted to. I mean, basically. We had guys living down the road who were hip hop dudes, who were the nicest dudes, and they were shooting adult films. in their warehouse. They actually laughed at us because before we had a shower, we showered a lot when it rained. So you'd see like, us outside in like shorts on and Vans or Converse in the rain with soap. Like that's how we were washing ourselves. Then eventually a guy moved across the street who had a shower, and he rented out his shower for $2 a pop. So you'd see grown, men, running across, from our warehouse to his with like a towel on, and you'd give him $2, take your shower, and you'd leave, And then we graduated, and we got a proper bathroom with a shower.
Who built that?
It was, I'm pretty sure, I don't remember their names, but I'm pretty sure it was the guys who were in the band, the Bloody Sods. So it was like these punk rock guys who were nice, who were plumbers. And I believe we kind of did it on a half cash, half barter. Like, I think to install the shower, we gave them like $50 and a case of beer, something like that, something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Myself and Marlo and Dwayne, and then even, Brian Kinchlow as well. The three of them were in Swing Riot, but then they joined and they were playing with me in Rent Boys. So my band Rent Boys practiced there. We, if we were going on a tour, we got a T-shirt press, had that out in the middle of the open of the warehouse in front of the stage, and to make money on the road. I remember, late at night, we're leaving to hit the road tomorrow, working with Marlo and just, pressing Rent Boys shirts to sell on the road, basically for food and gas, for us, on tour. I was doing Rent Boys, but we also did so many other things because we always hosted parties, like besides doing, big shows like we did PrankFest and stuff, but we would do, we did Rocktober in October. We had we had bands play, and all of us would be doing Pogues covers. Another night we'd be doing Clash covers, and then we'd have ping pong tournaments, and we'd be making outfits. Some of the best memories. I think it was the Thumbs from Maryland that were playing one show, and I think it was Russ and maybe Brian and Dwayne went out shopping that day, and they all got like the tightest like 70s like Fred Perry tennis outfits. Where so tight and so high up on them that anything sticking out of their bodies you just saw, and literally I remember being so high watching the Thumbs play, and then I just look and I just see like Brian like in a tennis outfit just shredding like on the board with big glasses on. I think he was actually holding a tennis racket, but we always, we were always working on projects. Like I said, the festivals, the parties we had, Halloween was always huge. So we'd be making our own costumes, making up a band that's just going to play that night. I think, in the summertime, especially the neighbors that we had, because we had C10 and C12 on both sides of us were great friends, and you knew them. Gavin was great. Russ lived there, and then our friends that we called the hippies, who wound up proving us wrong and were best friends, great friends with to this day. They wound up being more punk than any of us, and so between all of us, any time like someone bought a new pair of shoes, you had a parade or a party, so it seemed like there was a party at all times. Like the guys put a pool in the back, and there was always people swimming in this pool, and it was like, for some reason, no one wore clothes in the pool. It's just like, all right, we're going in, it was definitely a topless friendly pool for sure. Our friend Jessica for sure, being very creative, shooting I guess fire out of her, I'm trying to say it the nicest way, of our crotch area, that was always big, and it always went well with like, bands playing. I remember Russ wearing, I guess you'd call it, like assless chaps, and having a huge paddle, and just bending people over a lot in one of the parties, and just hitting people really, really hard, and they loved it. Like everyone was in on it, and that was also, I guess, a performance. Another party, someone on a swing, really high up, not wearing anything, swinging. And then I think some friends of Jessica's like came through town from the circus, right?
Right.
from New Orleans.
Yeah.
And so they stayed there with us. And let's see, one gentleman was able to perform, I guess, is it okay to say,
Yeah.
perform, oral acts on himself, and then there were chickens running around. I guess that was part of the circus. I don't know. And then there was also a nail of beds that someone would just lay down on, like, well, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm glad.
he laid on the bed while he performed.
Yes. Okay. So it was the same guy.
Yeah.
So he was a guy he was multi skilled.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bicycles. It is fun to live in a place that when the ceiling's really high, you can play basketball or throw a ball around. It is fun to live in a place that you can have a bicycle, and like we're right now, you can't ride a bicycle. There's no room. But to be indoors and be able to ride a bicycle or take a bicycle on a ramp where people are skateboarding and do tricks, yeah, there's something very, like, I'm a huge fan of that myself. Even the older I get, I'm always like, never lose your childlike ways, or at least hold on to as much of that as you can. And for sure, we were able to hold on to that. I mean, I was in my mid to late 20s when we were doing it, and I think everyone was about my age or maybe a couple years younger. So I think everyone was experiencing all those things at the same time. It was great being in a band there. It was great practicing there. It was great recording there. As a matter of fact, I remember when we went and did our first album as Rent Boys, not liking the album. I hated the backing vocals sounded fake and overpowering. And then I remember Brian Kinchlow saying, well, I got equipment, and us just kind of like setting it up almost like the old, reggae artists did. And we had a couple of microphones, one's taped to like, the top of a vacuum cleaner hanging, and the other one's taped to the ceiling. And we recorded that way. And those are some of my favorite recordings, the ones we did in C11, whether it was in Brian's room / studio or in the front room where the ceilings were low, because we had a lot of shows there as well.
Do you have any favorite shows that were there?
Oh my goodness, yes. The PrankFests were huge. And we mostly were punk rock guys, but we love all of it, and there were so many great memories because, like, Damn It, when they came from Savannah, that was wonderful, and they were the nicest people. Rest in peace, Victoria. Just like the sweetest humans ever. I love that because the music was so brutal, but yet their just hearts were tremendous, and they were just like. As a matter of fact, I remember Rent Boys playing in Savannah, and like the guys from Damage who normally look crusty, they will put on suits and came to see us play, and they're dancing. It was like that's to me, when I think of community, that's the greatest thing ever. But one of the Prank Fests.
And can you explain PrankFest?
Yeah, PrankFest. Well, Prank Records was a really big record label that basically put out, certainly unconventional, metal music, And I don't know how we were the ones who were so lucky to have this, because I'm sure they had festivals all over the country, But Damage or Damad, they were on that label, and so many great bands were on that label, And 2 years in a row in Atlanta, we hosted the festival at C11, and I mean, so you had bands from all over. The place certainly didn't smell very good, I mean, it was definitely, crust central, But there was a shower, but no one was using it, There was a shower. We'd have a couple of kegs of beer. People paid $5 to get in. Everyone made a little bit of money. It was the most fun. But this band was booked from Japan, called Smash Yo Face. Best name ever. Nicest dudes, barely spoke a word of English. Someone went and picked them up from the airport, and they came and they get on stage and they're like, "Rawr," and nice. But I remember the bass player was of Smash Your Face, was wearing like a Mexican, yes, like a luchador, like a wrestling mask, and he's like playing, like this, whatever. And you think this guy thought he was playing at Madison Square Garden or like the Omni. That's how into it they were. It was amazing, And he has this mask on, and he pulls the mask off, and underneath he has another mask on. And he's just like having the time of his life. And like, it didn't matter. They were playing in front of 50 or 80 or whoever it was. Maybe there were 200 people there because they got big, but 200 crusty people having the time of their life. Everyone beautiful, everyone smelling on each other and hugging each other, drinking out of these plastic cups out of keg beer, and it was brilliant. It really was brilliant. That was amazing. But friends from Hot Water Music played there. Rent Boys certainly played there. Fiend Without a Face, who were one of my favorite bands in the whole world, they played there. Swing Riot played there. Loved the Swing Riot show. I loved that Thumb show, which I think we might have all been on mushrooms when I saw Brian like flying in the air in his tight and then I look over this like Dwayne and Russ in tighter Fred Perry shorts, like just creeping up their crotches, and tight Fred Perry tops. And then, Dwayne just looks at me. He's like, he goes, that's punk. And it was like, look at me. I'm smiling ear to ear, talking about it. It was the best. I mean, formed friendships, relationships in that time of my life that to this day I'm still best friends with those people. That really says a lot. We really are so fortunate and so lucky with all of that. I'm sure at the end, like after you leave, or we'll get together and do this again, or who knows what we're going to use. But I'm sure later on or tomorrow I'll text you and be like, oh my gosh, this band played here as well. Actually, no, I got a really, really good one. See, I'm glad I thought about this. Hickey. Oh, goodness. Hickey and I believe it was Fuckface that were playing. Was it Grimple? I think might have played another time, but Hickey and Fuckface played, and I mean it was so awesome. Hickey ruled, and their merch guy who was selling merch for both of them. I remember him just walking around, and he literally was wearing nothing but cowboy boots and just a belt. So just everything, and he's just like selling merchandise. I'm like, yeah, of course. And he looked cool as hell, and he's just hanging out, and he's just like, yeah, t-shirts for $12, t-shirts for $12, whatever. This is probably in like '99 or two. I'd say by 2000, it for me, some of the magic, I'd say '97 to late '99 was everything to me. To early 2000 was everything to me, and then there wasn't that magic wasn't there as much, but that was awesome. We're huge, and to this day, Frankie Stubbs and Leatherface fans. And so when Leatherface came through town the first time and played with Howard Music at the Echo Lounge, we all befriended Frankie Stubbs that night. They stayed with us in the West End. Frankie in the front room would have the small ceiling. Frankie doing playing Little White God, or Not Superstitious on acoustic guitar. That is huge in my memory. Mike Watt coming back to hang out with us after I think he played a show and he stayed with us, and Stephen Hodges, who was playing drums with him in his band at the time, who was Tom Waits' drummer on the album Rain Dogs. They stayed with us, and Nels Klein, and hanging out with Stephen Hodges, one asking him about recording with Tom Waits is huge, but then also sharing a joint with Mike Watt, and then I think Rent Boys played that party, and Mike Watt's hanging out at a party in C11 watching us play. Those things are just you're like, did I just say that? Two, did that really happen? Now, 20 something years ago, you're all like, it's a lot of it. You just like, well, we're all really lucky. The best times.
Yeah. Awesome. So why did you leave?
Oh, I left for a lot of reasons, and none of them had to do with my love for the people there. But let's just say that I was in a situation that I wasn't really much used to anybody there. I wasn't in the best place to be there, and I knew I needed to remove myself from that situation to make myself a better person, and I believe everyone eventually kind of did that, until Brian B. Kinch was probably the last person He might have had a few people there with him who came in later, but in Brian fashion, I think they found out they were selling the place, or everyone needed to move out anyway. And I think I didn't go to it, but I think Brian had a party, and it was an awesome destruction party. I think they blew some stuff up, and I heard Big Kinch went out with a bang, which would not surprise me. He knows how to do it.
Awesome.
I know all good things come to an end, or should come to an end, and I'm fine with that as well. So it represented such a free time of rock and roll and free spirits, us getting to know each other, mixed with innocence, mixed with not so much innocence, people discovering things about themselves.
About the warehouse.
It really was amazing. There was